Warm greetings, everyone. On behalf of W4W Foundation, a think tank instituted as Citizens Collective, we welcome you to another session of Wednesdays for Water. The conversation today is part of the Lake and Pond series, and we are going to talk about pond and water conservation, community in collective action, part 2. If you recall, last week we were talking about the same with a rural context, and today we will talk about it in the urban context. Before we get into the session, a brief about Wednesdays for Water. The objective of the Wednesdays for Water is to engage in conversation with water experts, grassroots practitioners, policymakers, and youth to explore the complex intertwined issues associated with water and the possible solutions the speakers have already explored. Wednesdays for Water has expanded since then to have more activities like the Friday Waters and Monday Munching with Women for Water. Besides organizing on-site water workshops, walks and talks, seminars, special courses, and conference panels to continue the water conversation in various possible ways. At W4W, we believe that water conversations are crucial for water conservation. Do visit our website, www.w4w.in for more details. In today's session on pond and water conversation and conservation, we are looking at community in collective action with the urban context. And to do the honor, we have Usha Rajagopalan. And we are going to talk to her about her journey with the lakes of Bangalore. But before that, my name is Mansee Bal Bhargava, and I'm also the moderator and host of the session from W4W. As we know that ponds and lakes are very integral part of urban systems. It's just recent time that we have started looking at it in that manner, that they are part of urban systems. Having said that, traditionally we have been maintaining in the community format, but in the olden time, it was more homogeneous community, unlike what we see in the urban communities, which are quite heterogeneous by all means. So to conduct a collective action to really revive, restore, or even maintain a lake or a pond, it's really a Herculean task, and not many people are able to do it, but we have some of the, I will say, lake workers or really people who are behind these successful restoration and maintenance. We shall further discuss the nuances and the opportunities and challenges of really bringing the community together into this collective action with our wonderfully grounded water worker, Usha Rajagopalan. Before I invite her, let me just give a brief introduction of hers as a protocol of the session. And I met her actually at NDDV, one of the IME events some time ago. Usha Rajagopalan is currently the Homi Bhabha Fellow and working on a memoir of her experience as a lake conservationist. Otherwise, she is also a writer, translator, and lake conservationist based in Bangalore. She has actually written books in multiple genres. The Zoo in My Backyard, I'm just giving some example here, then Tracking Purnima, and then poetic translations into English of several literary works. She has won the Federation of Indian Publishers Award prizes and then Commonwealth Short Story Prize also at many years. And I mean, I can just go on and on with her long work, but importantly, she has received a lot of scholarship as well as grants and awards from all over the world, I must say. She co-founded the Puttanhalli Neighborhood Lake, which we are going to start as a conversation, but later on we are going to take the conversation further. The lake also has an improvement trust, which is the Puttanhalli Neighborhood Lake Improvement Trust, which has been nurturing the lake since 2010. So we are going to learn from her the whole journey and the acknowledgement and appreciation the lake and the lake workers have got through this initiative. And I'm more keen to understand what was more interesting and challenging, restoring the lake or restoring the community as a community, especially in urban case. So welcome, Usha, and I would really like to hear your opening remarks with this little question, which is really a difficult question. Lake restoration or collective action? What was more Herculean task in your kitty when you started, and what made you really start?
I think lake restoration would be the slightly more difficult because you have to go, convince the municipality to rejuvenate the lake. So
Hmm.
that I would say was more difficult. And once the lake was revived, it was actually easy to get the local community to come and participate because they could see what was happening on the ground. So the more the lake was taking shape as a lake, the greater the public interest. So between your two options, I would say getting the lake restored in the first place was more difficult.
Interesting. So, you have worked so many years. I mean, that way we share Gujarat, life, and we also do some little Gujarati conversation now when we talk on phone. But coming from NDDB background, literary background, and then late in your life, how come?
Yeah, it's absolute. I like to call myself a writer by choice and a conservationist by chance. Because
Mhm.
after my stint in Ahmedabad and Anand, and then we moved to Manipal for a short while and then to Bangalore. And in all these places, I was pretty much insulated from environment issues. Water was available and you open up the tap.
Hmm.
And I didn't really look into or worry too much about where it was coming from. But when I shifted to Bangalore in 2006, and I happened to be living in a high rise for the first time, and from my balcony, I could see this lake dying slowly every day. And it made me feel very guilty because I felt that my father was in the IFS Forest Service in Kerala and he had inculcated this respect for natural resources in me and my siblings. And he passed away in January and we moved to Bangalore in July that same year. So every time I saw the lake, actually, I remembered my father saying if he had been alive, he would not have been happy about me keeping quiet about it and watching the lake die. But the point was that after all these years, I had become a full-time writer. And I wanted to write more because when I shifted to Bangalore, I had already published 3 books. The third book was in the press. So I was looking forward to being a full-time writer. But then the more I saw the tippers come and dump construction debris, there is a slum in the encroachment in the premises, and they were pushing all this construction debris further into the lake basin, making more spaces for their own houses. And you would have found, instead of water, you would find piles of trash, some set on fire. So it was like smoke and dirt and muck and whatnot. That was the sight. So I felt that I should not keep quiet. For the sake of my conscience, I needed to do something about it. So I mooted a campaign. To cut a very long story short, yes, succeeded finally in getting BBMP, which is the municipality, to rejuvenate the lake. And that is how the whole thing began.
So, since we are very keen to understand the whole campaign in this conversation, and as the title also speaks, collective action and also community, urban community, would you please elaborate after your own enlightenment? What was the kind of community mobilization that you undertook? And what was the time period? What was the kind of conversation? What was the kind of negotiations within the community first? Maybe I will ask how then it happened with the local authority also, or you can take the local authority first, because I would like to know the social engineering of getting things done with the community and of course with the local authority, because you will agree after years of working on the lake that actually water management is people management, uh, by theory and by practice. So how did you manage to get those people who were sitting and they were also looking from their window this lake dying, and somebody had to move the first stone? So I'm very keen to understand the whole process of community mobilization.
Okay, so it actually began with me sending out an email in my apartment complex. It's a huge complex, nearly 2,000 units.
Wow.
Yes, it's a township in itself. And as you rightly said at the very end, that many of them could see the lake dying. So, but the problem was they were reluctant to take the first step
Hmm.
because they did not know what it entailed. And secondly, they had no clue who I was. I
Hmm.
mean, a random stranger sending a mail saying, Chalo, let's save the lake. वो तो नहीं होगा ना. They
Hmm.
have to have the trust that there is really somebody who will do what she says.
Hmm.
And so initially I was faced with a great deal of skepticism. So I
Hmm.
did a door-to-door campaign saying, Are घर से दिख रहा है ना that lake, let's together save it. Because I really believe that if we get together, we can do a lot of good things. And so some people said, Why are we paying taxes? It's a government's duty. And then they said, Watch out, madam. The real estate lobby and the political interface is very, very strong. Don't walk into danger. Don't walk into trouble. But as a writer, I know that writing a book is not easy. I have written novels, 3 novels, and you work on a small idea, you develop it, you keep at it. So the basic requirement for a writer, as with a lake conservationist, is perseverance. Kisi bhi tarah, you work it out. So what I did was to rope in three men in my community. One of them could see the lake. So I said that was the carrot that I dangled for him. See, you can see the lake. You need to join up with me. And one of them happened to be very savvy. Incidentally, he's a Gujarati, Mukesh Ashar. And Mukesh Bhai was very, very street smart. And he knew the people who could be helpful within the community and outside. And the other person was Ashok Das, he has his own company. He is into sustainability. So the four of us got together. We started Save the Lake campaign. And in 2009, January, we invited the MLA for the flag hoisting. So we went around with a letter and got signatures from everybody who had gathered saying, let's get the MLA to rejuvenate the lake. So then being a writer helped because I was also writing letters to and articles in the media and shooting off emails to everybody. But actually, to tell you honestly, Mansee, none of these worked. None of them worked. And it so happened that my neighbor, person living on the fourth floor, I'm on the fifth floor, he happened to be with a lot of clout. His name is Ashwin Mahesh. And he was associated with Abide. And he got BBMP to include Puttanali Lake into their list of lakes for rejuvenation. And that was actually what did the trick. And once uh, BBMP started reviving the lake, then rumors started floating because nobody could sort of believe in a lake, in a city where lakes were dying. For a lake to get actually revived was something that nobody could believe. So the rumors started floating that this must be a metro station, it must be a bus stand, vagera, vagera. And so what we did was with the apartment association, we celebrated Earth Day in 2010, to which we invited people in the vicinity around the lake saying, remember, we had told you that we are going to save the lake. Actually, this is that's what is happening. So the
Mm-hmm.
chief engineer came, he spoke on the occasion. We invited, the chief guest was actually the then chairman of Bangalore Environment Trust. So the whole community came together. And on that day, we took pledges from people saying that at the first opportunity, we'll plant trees. So you pledge any amount, and when the time comes, we will invite you to plant a tree, and then you can make your donation. BBMP helped us out tremendously uh, because they helped us organize these events. The association helped us organize this event. It was also very important for a very significant matter because high rises typically we tend to live in silos, we tend to live in islands.
Yes.
But here, the lake rejuvenation process brought everybody together. And Earth Day was an occasion when we got to meet people living in other residential layouts and in apartment complexes. So I met Aarti Mane and Prasanna Vainathaya and O.P. Ramaswamy for the first time. And we realized that we wanted actually to help BBMP maintain the lake. So we registered that four of us got together and we registered the trust in June 2010. And the very next month, together with the BBMP, we kept our word and we organized the first public tree plantation drive, which was inaugurated by the MLA. People came, they planted trees, they made donation. With the money, we hired a gardener and a security guard. So from 125 saplings that day, today we have more than 500 trees which have been largely planted by people in the area. So how do you get the community invested in this? One of the things that we have done at the lake was 2020 to celebrate 10th year of PNLIT. We invited our long-time donors to come and to adopt a tree. So today at the lake, you will find a particular tree adopted by so-and-so in the memory of so-and-so. Adopted by a well-wisher. So all these things actually help to make the community stakeholders. And I must tell you that from that day to today, we are still meeting expenses purely with voluntary donations that we get from the locality. BBMP gives us infrastructural support and the community gives us maintenance expenses, either volunteering or donations.
So from the 2000, flats in your around 2000 flats in your society and the neighboring societies which are around the lake, do you think they could envisage that as a community they can take it up, and then there will be local authorities, they will come forward, and now when they look back to this whole journey, what kind of conversations you are having between the lake enthusiasts, I will say, from the skeptics to enthusiasts?
Oh, I think the skeptics became believers.
Hmm.
And they do think that it's now possible to work with the bureaucracy.
Hmm.
It is possible for individuals to make a change in common spaces. So I think definitely, otherwise they will not be supporting us even today, 15 years down the line, if they are still supporting us. It shows how much their mindset has changed, no? And also, I must tell you that many people who have moved out of South City, they reach back to me saying, in our area, new area, there is a lake, and please tell us how to go about reviving it. So that is a huge, huge change.
I think that's
Essentially,
that's equally important, that the knowledge is going further.
see, by the lake is there for everybody to see. So old timers know how the lake was, but sometimes even we forget how it used to look, because now we see it with all the trees, rich green cover and nice rippling water, birds and whatnot. So it is we have to look at the old photographs to see how the lake was. So definitely this is one huge change, that people believe now it can be done. I think this also could be the reason why public participation in lake conservation is really catching up and is quite strong in Bangalore.
Yes, it is. I think Bangalore that way is quite ahead of other cities in the country in terms of people taking charge, our community, forming communities to do things, especially on water. And Bangalore is also one of the most water stressed cities in the country. So it has no choice than to come together and do some more things. Now, a tricky question for you. I'm sure you acknowledged it in the beginning, that your skill of managing people when you were at service And then that skill, I'm sure, got utilized here. But apart from that, you also said that your writing skill also came quite handy. My question to you is, when you were setting your, I will say GPS or your understanding to get the lake done. What was going on in the mind in terms of literally doing something on the lake, the technical side of lake restoration? How were you envisaging it? Who were the people who were guiding, and or how did you take the guidance to do it? And BBMP and all those things you can probably highlight here.
See, I mentioned about my writing, but I must also tell you that I worked with Dr. Varghese Kurian.
Yes. Mm.
And I think that experience really helped to toughen me up and not take no for an answer.
Mm.
It helps me even today to, I can really go and meet anybody that I want. No,
Mm.
when my lake is at stake, I have no fear or no concern about meeting anyone. And this boldness, I think Dr. Kurian, I owe it to him big time for this. As for how did we get the skills, the technical skills?
Mm.
Actually, when BBMP started revive, to tell you very honestly, when BBMP started reviving the lake, I thought my work was done. Now I
Mm.
can go back to becoming a full-time writer. But when the work actually got underway, we found out that people were stealing the metal. A lot of vandalism was happening. And we realized that we needed to be there on the spot to prevent these from happening. That is how the thought came about, that we needed to assist BBMP with protecting the lake and maintaining it. Okay. And once we registered the trust, and then the tree plantation started and the birds started returning. And in order to keep the community more and more engaged, we started holding a whole series of programs, events for the public, just to make people aware that this is a lake, it is your lake, you need to come to the place. So, and then Aarti created a website for us, and then we would send out email updates all the time about everything that was happening at the lake. So, whether people wanted to hear about it or not, the information was there in their inboxes. And it really worked, because only if people are aware will they become concerned, and only if they are concerned, they are going to actually come forward and participate in it. So this is what actually, that's why we keep saying our lake is a people's lake.
Yeah, it's a very well put that information is important to make people aware, and once they are aware, they will be concerned, and if they are concerned, they will also think of acting on it. And this is very well, theoretically also laid out when I study lakes for last 30 years now in my scholarly work. Uh, uh, I would still like to understand from you. The lake restoration process, I mean, when, as you mentioned about some materials and all, but what was the lake restoration process taken in Puttanhalli case? And I have seen your website, and also the events which are continuously taking place during my PhD. I will be honest, from 2013 I'm following your work, but that time the not much was available on website, but later on, yes, about events and all. But if you could Google, one could see the work on Puttanhalli. So I'm just curious to understand what exactly were the lake restoration process that took place apart from the planting, like the holding of the edge or whatever happened, and how the water really plays a role in that lake now. When is the water there? Are people appreciating having no water, less water? What is the water dynamics in the lake right now? And since it is restored, what
Okay.
do you call a restoration, to be honest? It
See,
is
actually,
restoration.
Mansi, to tell you the truth, we did not get involved in the actual process of rejuvenation, because we had absolutely no idea about it. we had no clue how one goes about rejuvenating a lake. But when it started, and we used to spend long hours looking at the JCB digging out the muck from the lake basin, raising the revetment, and then placing these inlet pipes, and then creating a pathway around. So those were actually the learning for us, and that also, in a way, it spiked our interest in rejuvenation. So it so happened that in the very first monsoon, we realized that some of the inlet pipes were not actually placed at the right positions. They were they were just showpieces. Only a few inlets were actually active. So what we did was, in 2012, we got a total station survey done and found out that with the force of water, from the northern side of the lake, which is a Brigade Millennium Avenue, it's another apartment complex. And from that avenue, with the force of water, it could be diverted into the lake. So we sent the survey results to BBMP, and they created a diversion channel.
Mhm.
And this helped to definitely increase the water level. And more importantly, the water was actually getting wasted. It was flowing down and creating flooding in the lower areas. And that reduced considerably. So, on the one hand, the water level started increasing, and on the other, it prevented flooding in the neighborhood. But even that we realized was not enough, because if the monsoon is not very good in one year, then where is the water going to come from? So in 2014 or so, in my apartment complex, there is a very good STP which is maintained by the
Mhm.
association. And so we approached them for excess water, treated water. And they said, fine, but you need to get permission from BBMP and from Pollution Control Board. So we did the rounds, and finally, again, to compress condense the narration, we started getting treated water from the STP from my apartment complex from
Mhm.
May 2015. So today, rainwater is augmented with treated water in Puttakere. And with the result of all this, initially when it rained, the water would scarcely be seen because the ground was so parched that all the water was going underground. But slowly it started getting saturated. And for the first time after rejuvenation in July 2016, the lake overflowed for the first time.
So I'm sure then you also, along with you, your resident neighbors and other lake enthusiasts started to understand this relationship of lake, inlet, outlet, other lakes, because because most of the time, since I am working on the knowledge part of the lake as knowledge management, as I call it, most of the time people envisage a lake as a standalone entity. And so often when I'm conducting lake walks and talks, I ask people, where is the water going to come to the lake from? I mean, is it the straight water falling into the lake, or is it coming from somewhere? What happens if it gets filled and all? So I'm sure you managed to convey this and people understood this idea. So just to understand from you, is Putanhalli Lake now connected with other lakes or interlinked with other lakes? And did you all take cognizance of this whole idea of inlet outlet in terms of ensuring that the drainage inlet and drainage outlet are also taken care to really have the water balance in the lake? And when you also mentioned about the STP you have in your society that is discharging the lake water, uh, are you also having a regular checkup or health checkup of the lake? So maybe you can enlighten on both these aspects, because health of the drainage will also influence the health of the lake.
Yes, see, talking about this STP, we were very confident that the South City STP would be very good, because actually the association was using the treated water for flushing in the newer blocks.
Hmm.
So the quantum of excess water that they were discharging to the lake at those days, 2015, 16 onwards, it was about 4 to 5 lakh liters a day.
Hmm.
But last year, what they have done is to retrofit the older blocks with the dual piping. We have 18 blocks, 2,000 apartments. So the quantum now discharged to the lake is much less, about 2 to 3 lakh liters, because bulk of it is used in South City itself. And even in my bathroom, I have toilets, I use the treated water for flushing. And genuinely, there is no better test than a resident's nose to say whether
Yes.
how the quality of the treated water. And yes, we got the approval only because Pollution Control Board knew how the STP was maintained. Because if an STP is not maintained properly, it can lead to unmitigated disaster, you know.
Yes.
And so that is why the association, because we are using it for flushing, they need to ensure that the quality is very good. To be on the safe side, we also test the water at the lake, not just from the STP, the treated water that comes in, because when the guy comes to take the samples, it may not be coming in at that point. So we test the water from 5 different points at the lake. Okay. And this is as far as the treated water goes. You asked about the inlets, etc. This is really a problem because people do tend to misuse the rainwater drains as their garbage disposal
Yes.
outlets. Okay. So we can't go around cleaning the drain everywhere.
Absolutely.
And but what we have done is to put up a huge 6 foot high grill on the silt trap. Okay.
Hmm.
So it actually catches all the floating trash which enters with the surface runoff. And our gardeners remove it. So to that extent, what is how we have prevented the rubbish that is there in the drain from entering the lake.
And I also looked at, at your lake and other activities that there are a lot of information, placards, brochures, which are shared to people from time to time when you have these events and all. Do you think people around the lake now are more enlightened towards not putting garbage or one part, and other than that also taking pride and more awakened citizens to really and even appreciate the lake? Often when we talk about water, we are always looking at the crisis and the problem side, but there is a lot to what appreciate about water. The presence of lake with a clean environment, do people realize and appreciate it, and how do they really show manifest this appreciation and realization?
Okay, I can give you a few instances.
Hmm.
Okay. One thing that we had done was actually to keep small litter boxes
Hmm.
all around the lake. Okay. So once it so happened that I was standing there and I watched a boy. This was long ago, 10, 12 years ago, I think. He was kicking a plastic bottle. You know, typical you एक धक्का दो and देख लो कि कहाँ तक जाता है. And then you run to it and kick it. So I was very, very sure he's going to kick it into the water. And I was
Huh.
all prepared to give him one big lecture. Okay.
Huh.
But almost he perhaps he didn't even notice me because he was so focused on kicking this bottle. He came about 3 quarters to where I was, and then he stopped. He picked up the bottle and put it in a litter bin. I was so impressed, absolutely impressed. So this is at one instance, which is enough. See, if you are looking for awards in lake conservation as the big trophy that you get from a government or from some company, then that is actually not worth anything. These
Hmm.
are the things which matter, which keep us going. Secondly, I was not witness to this. Our gardeners informed. There were two or three young men sitting on a bench and smoking. And some women who were going past, they said this is a non-smoking zone. These boys would not listen. Those women simply called the Hoysala and got those boys taken away. I was so happy to hear this. So these are really show. And one more instance is that I told you we send updates on the birds that we sight at the lake. So once we happened to see this family, and there's the with two children, I think, and the mother was looking at the mobile phone and then pointing out, and the father was holding up the kid and pointing out at something. So we went up and asked, "What are you looking at?" So she said, "I have saved all the emails that you've sent about the birds, and I am showing the children what these birds are, identifying them." But at the same time, I must tell you, Mansi, a lot of vandalism happens. We are put up in, we can't obviously stand there all the time and say, what is
Yes.
this particular bird or what is that particular tree? So we had put up these huge boards, bird boards, as we call them, which have nice photographs, all taken at the lake. Even on our website, all the photographs that you see
Yes.
there have all been taken strictly at the lake. So, but then we found people scratching, cutting it, mutilating it. And just about 2, 3 weeks ago, one board simply vanished. So these are really problems that we have to face, and we don't know what to do because the lake is vulnerable after all is said and done. The encroachment has not been removed. So the lake is highly vulnerable, and we are helpless because we have, as citizens, we have tried to do as much as we can to protect the lake. But when you have people, coming there, drinking at night and pulling out the cable, I think I mentioned it, right? Just 2 days ago, we found that the cable had been pulled out. Fortunately, it was not snapped, so we could continue to use our aerator and we could use a pump to water the plants. But how much can we struggle like this? So I feel that the government really needs to step up and take very strict action if they are genuinely interested in lake conservation.
You put a very important question that how much citizens can take, actions or take charge of protecting these natural resources, and government should take it up, which I also agree as their duty to take it up. But I'm also always concerned, being in this field for nearly 30 years, studying lakes all my life, is if people are really take care of their lakes and not do things or wrong things, government actually have to do much lesser than we are really asking them to do. It's a very simple thing. If we don't litter, if we don't loiter or do things wrong, we are much better, because the percentage of sanitation workers, lake cleaners or city cleaners, and even government officers uh, in a populace or in a number of lakes which a city has is way too meager to even for them to take care of it technically as well as humanly. It is difficult. So where do you see, because now you are also a public speaker talking about lakes all over the country all the time, I'm aware of it, and also guiding people, and I'm sure you are guiding people more on the community aspects, and that's why we are discussing the community aspect with you today more than the technical aspect of the lake itself. Where do you see the role of education, and where are we missing that point of educating people about these very simple commonsensical things, that it is their nature, their city, their road, their lake, their trees? Where are we missing the point in as a society?
I would actually think that more than the society, it is the responsibility of the government to understand the importance of co-management.
Hmm. Very well put. Hmm.
Okay. So if they involve the people,
Hmm.
they will be more cooperative. They will
Hmm.
not do many of the things that you said.
Hmm.
If you make them stakeholders,
Hmm.
The governance of lakes cannot be top down.
Mm.
It has to start with the people and end with the people.
Mm.
The
After all,
government,
it's their lake.
the government has only to be a facilitator.
Yes, very
I
rightly
think
said.
that is, if you want to educate all these schemes, whether you're talking about waste management or protection of public spaces, if you do not involve the people and give them responsibility, then you will end up in a big mess, because
Mm.
they are the people who are misusing the place in the first instance.
Mm.
So the only way to make them stop it, I told you, with this boy and with these women. In
Mm.
fact, actually, I should tell you another couple of instances. One is when our lake was auctioned for commercial fishing. And the people who used to walk at the lake would shout at the fishermen, saying, "This is our lake. How dare you come and fish in our lake?" And we had to tell him, "No, Baba, he has got the fishing contract."
Mm.
Okay. And
And fishing is
secondly,
important in the lake. Many people don't understand.
and another instance is when sewage would, even we are highly vigilant for sewage entry. Okay.
Mm.
And very often it is people who walk at the lake who tell us that sewage is coming in.
Mm.
So how did we do this? How did we make them stakeholders? It is only by giving them a role in this, no? By telling them it is as much your lake as it is ours.
Yes.
So, and what we are doing is what actually the municipality should be doing. It should
Mm.
understand the importance of co-management and make people come forward and discharge their role as users of the lake.
Mm. So when you talk about co-management, very interesting, because often these big funds now which are disbursed for lake development, and I'm sure you also had this discussion at your own lake area, to make this distinction between development and conservation, because development comes with a lot of uh, incentives to manage to develop the lakes by the local bodies. When you talk about co-management, it reminds me of my living in the Netherlands, where our neighborhood secretary association, president and all, they used to get a small grant from the local municipality to maintain the flower beds, the water body, the street cleanliness and all. And there used to be regular inspection by the local municipality, and if there was something wrong there, and if the society RW had not informed the municipality, they will be fined. And by the end of the year, if their performance is good, they will actually also get an increment in the annual grant to maintain the neighborhood. So just to give you, so that so co-management does not only mean of the managing by human resource. It also means sharing the funding. I mean, with that, I'm coming to your model of lake management now. Now it is restored, as I understand, and it's like a marriage. You marry one day, but you maintain for rest of your life. So once the lake is restored, maintenance also has a huge cost. So how is the maintenance model at Helly? You did mention briefly that it is by voluntary funding and all, but I'm sure because now it's a registered trust, there must be a lot of other things. And who are really the people who are helping as donors, and how is the broad arrangement of really maintaining the lake goes? How much for the lake health, how much for the vegetation? Is the trust also hiring the security guard or Mali, or what exactly are you doing in the maintenance part of it now?
See, maintenance actually, I would split it into two. One
Okay.
is the looking or tending to the garden or keeping
Mm.
the water clean. So we have definitely, we cannot manage this without our staff. We have
Yes.
three gardeners who also multitask as lake cleaners. So
Hmm.
if there is some litter in the water flow,
Hmm.
plastic bag floating, then they would go in the coracle and remove it. If some trees need to be trimmed,
Hmm.
okay, then they will do that. They will do the watering. We have rigged up our pipeline all around the lake so that watering becomes easier. Now, all these things are really visible for you, for people who come to the lake. Because when a lake looks clean and well maintained, okay, then the temptation to misuse the place is reduced a bit. Okay. But maintenance for us is also to prevent, for instance, sewage
Yes.
entering the lake.
Yes. That's a
Okay.
huge responsibility on the society.
Exactly. Now, if left to the municipality, what they would do is to inform the sewage board, right? What we do is to call up the ward office of the BWSSB directly, tell them sewage is coming in, keep at it till they remove the blockage and ensure sewage doesn't enter. We recently, for the past 7 years, we actually had a major problem with the garbage trucks for the ward coming, gathering just outside the lake. So what would happen is when the truck compacts the garbage, the leachate will fall onto the ground into the rainwater drain and enter the wetland. And we kept telling all the authorities that this leachate is extraordinarily toxic. It is going to kill the lake. So last month, in fact, what we did was collect a sample of that, get it lab tested, and confirmed our fears that it was very highly toxic. So just last week, we met the MLA and showed him a video, showed him the lab report, and told him, sir, this is killing the lake. Immediately, he called up the environment officer and the contractor, and he has shifted the garbage transfer point. For the last 6 days, the area is clean of this leachate. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, so it's a
Because
constant maintenance thing.
exactly, it has to be constant vigilance, and it is not enough if just a few people are on the task. Everybody who comes to the lake should understand what are the problems and how they can help to resolve it.
So because there are many visitors to the lake, I'm sure people are taking cognizance, and I'm also aware that you also have an information system where people can also inform that something is happening, and so that's a very good way of looping people in. Even if they can't do anything, at least they can inform that this is going on, and if it can be stopped. Because of course, Usha cannot go and stand there for whole day every day. This is not practically possible.
Mansee, one of the very, very simple and effective things that actually we had done at the lake was this. We have a security cabin, okay? It's a nice room. So outside, the wall outside, just below the window, we had painted it black. And we used that as our notice board. We would inform anything that was happening at the lake, whether it is an event or whether the reason for why the wetland is stinking, for instance. All these things we would put on that blackboard. And once it so happened, we really had a massive problem of sewage influx, which went on for some time, in fact. And the ward office nowadays, they are very, very prompt. Okay. But they were not so prompt before. So in the early days, they would not, they would not take our calls, or they would not reply promptly. And we would keep badgering them. And then what we did actually was to write the engineer's number on that blackboard.
Call the engineer.
Call him. So within 24 hours, he called me up and said, Madam, I will see to the problem.
He must have received several calls.
I don't want to think how many calls he must have received, but हमारा काम तो हो गया ना. So that's why I'm saying, make every person who visits the lake become a stakeholder in the actual sense of the term. It is their lake, it is their responsibility. If the lake goes for a toss, it is their groundwater which is going to get polluted, and they are going to lose the lake. Because right now, people say it is a landmark in the area, it is so good, etc., etc. but they also have a responsibility towards it. They need to sustain it because my friends and I are not going to be around forever. So we are constantly looking at how we can give them as clean a slate as possible so that they can continue the work, because genuinely what we want is for Putakere to be always the local responsibility of the local community working in tandem with the municipality. That's the only way.
That's what is co-management will be.
Exactly.
I will request our participants here as well as in YouTube to post their questions and comments. Either you raise your digital hand or you can write here. One of my probably last questions to you is, where do you see the engagement of youth? As you rightly mentioned that one cannot be there forever to take care of the lake, and I see that there is a serious role that youth has to play now in protecting the environment. What is your take on it, and how youth are involved in Putanhele? This will be
See,
probably my
all our
penultimate.
events are actually held for children.
Hmm.
Most of our programs are environment
Hmm.
awareness programs for children. Okay.
Hmm.
Because only if the child says, puts the foot down, the parents are going to listen. And
Hmm.
just coming to the lake and seeing how it is, and it's a little natural world in their backyard.
Hmm.
Okay. So, and we do have lots of children coming saying that we want to do some work at the lake. But
Hmm.
sadly, or I shouldn't say sadly, our lake has reached a threshold where work for volunteers has actually reduced
Hmm.
because it is pretty much thriving on its own. If
Hmm.
only
That's
we
a
can,
regenerated,
yeah,
self-regeneration. Hmm.
because all those days, early days when the lake was overgrown with weeds or when the lake was dry and we had to prepare the lake for the monsoon, they have all gone because the lake is really genuinely doing very well. And if I don't know how to keep them engaged other than, conducting these small workshops like we do these bio blitz, etc.
Hmm.
They also need to see a bad lake to see the comparison now.
Hmm.
Especially the children these days, they have grown up only with seeing the such a beautiful lake in their backyard, no? So they need to see other lakes to see how privileged they are to have a lake like this in their locality.
Absolutely. And that's where I think role of education also comes into picture. But part of co-management, I have started realizing that a youth from early age, they have to really first be informed, then be aware, and then they can take actions. Otherwise, it's difficult for them to have a long-term engagement. So, as you rightly mentioned, they should see the other lakes also. And Bangalore is city of lakes. Let me come to that point. So, what is Usha doing with other lakes in Bangalore, or what is in your kitty other than Putanhalli now?
See, actually, I would not. There are quite a few lake groups in Bangalore. We
Yes.
signed the MOU with BBMP in May 2011, and by 2019, three others had also signed MOUs with BBMP, and people's interest in taking responsibility for the lake in the neighborhood has genuinely risen. And I would not say it is all because of Putanali. No, each lake is doing very well on its own in to bring the community together and to spread awareness. But and the media has also helped us tremendously to showcase these success stories of ours, to say that it is possible. So, more
Yes.
than the community becoming aware that it is possible for us in South City to work with the BBFP, it is also people everywhere thinking now it is possible to work with the government and make a change for it is our own neighborhood.
Hmm.
And now there are roughly about 67 lake groups in Bangalore. So we
Hmm.
are in the process of coming together and forming a federation of Bangalore lakes.
Okay.
So that, according to BBMP, there are 205 lakes and 183 are live lakes. and we have already lost hundreds of lakes down the
Same in
years.
Ahmedabad.
And we want to ensure that at least these lakes are alive. So we want to find if we can enthuse the local community to assume responsibility for each of these lakes and keep them going.
Very interesting. So, is the local authority actually supporting these lake initiatives with funding resources, or only with human resources and technical like machines and all?
See, BBMP, as far as our lake has been concerned, BBMP has been giving us infrastructural support. Like I
Okay.
mentioned, the diversion
Yes.
channel, for instance. Okay. As far as meeting the regular maintenance expenses, we raise the money
You have to raise the money.
from the locality. And where we want to install a fountain, for instance, an aerator fountain, then we get CSR funds.
Hmm.
So that way, all the
It's
three
a
come together.
co-funding. It is already
Exactly.
co-funding.
Exactly. So
Interesting.
it has worked really very well.
You have an interesting video also to showcase as we
Oh,
are coming
yes.
closer to the session. Also, I will request. I see Ramachandra sir is here because I have also invited him to speak in the coming a month or so. If you have any questions or if you like to comment anything, sir, you are very much invited. And Usha, shall we share the video now?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just get the video first active. Please confirm if you see the video.
Not yet. Yes.
Yeah?
You
Okay,
need,
I will
yeah,
play it
fine.
now.
It is.
Hey, interesting. So that was interesting, very short. And I am also aware that the website has lot of information on what is happening and all the events and all. I just would to like to ask you on the area and the size of the lake, how much it is holding now, and to understand what it takes for people to really take charge.
The area of the lake is 13 acres, 25 guntas, of which 1 acre and 25 guntas about that is
Mhm.
encroached. and the water's body size is slightly less than 10 acres.
Okay, wonderful. So, if we look at the size of the lake, and if we can actually divide it by the at least one township, which is your township, uh, of 2000 households or flats, I'm sure there are more townships. So if we look at that way, actually per flat, it's a small piece of area which one has to take care. And I'm sure, go ahead. I'm sure there is also other aspects of, other than lake conservation, you people are also working on water conservation around in the neighborhood. So that because groundwater is also a big concern in Bangalore. So, what kind of conversations happen around the conservation in the neighborhoods?
Before I say that, I would just like to clarify it did begin at South City, but now it is the entire neighborhood that is supporting the lake. So it is also Brigade Mill. Our trustees are actually from different apartment
Yes. So,
locations.
so
So
that
it
way, every flat or family has to really take care of a small piece.
exactly. So in Tamil there is a saying, little drop. In English, it's there. Little drops of water make the ocean.
Yes,
So if we
absolutely.
if we take care of our just our own neighborhood, our own localities, our own drains, and ensure that we don't pollute the environment, I think that is good enough. We don't have to start off by saving all the lakes in the city. Just start
Yes.
simple. Come with
Start
that.
with one.
Yeah, absolutely. Start with one.
And just to my delight and your delight, do you see?
Ah,
Oh,
I
oh, because of
remember.
my background, the book
It isn't
is
showing.
not
Yeah.
visible.
I
I will,
think the soft copy is there in our website.
yes, it is there, but I can show it. You see? So I'm holding this book now. So I'm still holding this book, which I got from you long time ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2018-19.
Yes. So anyway, I see Ria Verma has her hand raised. Ria, would you please unmute yourself and pose your question or comment? Yeah.
Um, Hello, am
Hello.
I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Like the previous what Wednesdays for Water session, this was
Mm-hmm.
also like very, relatable how people work with the community and make something really, you know, not make, I would say solve a problem of their community.
Yes.
So, Usha ma'am, I wanted to ask you two questions. One is that, in all these years, as you said that you organize many programs for children and, for awareness. So, have you also tried to teach people about waste segregation? Because sewage coming into the lake is mainly because people don't segregate their waste and they just let it go, or maybe they throw in the landfill or give it to the municipality. So, have you tried to teach or make people aware that segregating your waste into dry and wet waste is very important? And if you have, how do they react to this, or how do they respond to that?
See, through not directly through our trust, but through other NGOs who specialize in waste management, we have held lots of programs at the lake. Okay. And so they bring participants and they show how a lake can actually look if you are not messing it up with your kachara. So that way, our lake becomes an example of how it can be if you manage your waste properly. So we, other than, we are a very, very small team, Ria. We are only 7 people and we are already overworked with just making the lake survive like this, thrive like this. So I know that we should get involved in other related activities, because a lake is not an island, it is very much part of the system, and the entire neighborhood has to be cleaned up. In fact, our trust is called Puttananai Neighborhood Lake Improvement Trust, because unless you improve the neighborhood first, then the lake cannot be revived. So it
Yeah.
is there in our agenda, but so far we have been so preoccupied with just the lake, and our problems haven't ended yet. So I don't know, at some point, hopefully, we will be able to enforce waste management, better waste management in our locality. So we have not done enough ourselves, but through others we have, yes.
And ma'am, one more question. In the middle of the session, you said that after all these years, still the encroachment has not stopped. It's still going on. So why is it that the encroachment has not stopped?
Why is the encroachment still
Not,
there?
Such a
yeah,
wonderful question as a young
Did she ask why is the encroachment still there?
why it is
yeah.
not stopping.
Ria, I wish
Mil-
I
$1 million question.
No, no,
I
no.
can
Okay,
answer it.
give it to tell you very, very briefly. In fact, when I started this campaign to save the lake, I did think first the encroachment has to be, the encroachers have to be rehabilitated, and only then the lake has to be rejuvenated. But then quickly I realized that shifting an encroachment is not easy. So we worked the other way. We revived the lake and then started working on rehabilitating the encroachers. So in 2013, actually, thanks to the Upalokayukta, we had, they had a revenue department had allocated land to them, and BBMP deposited money to the slum board, and slum board had built temporary sheds for them. All this happened in 2014. But when it came to, and this was done with the written consent of the encroachers, who from about 30, 40 families in 2010 became 2015, 115. Okay, so from 30, 40 in 2000, just 5 years, they became 115. And instead of accepting these temporary sheds and moving out, what they did was to file a writ petition in the High Court saying they want individual plots of land. Now, this is not a notified slum, and it is because of, on humanitarian grounds that they were given this. And this, once you file a writ petition, how long the matter goes on. It took 4 years finally for the High Court to dispose of this case, directing the government authorities to take a decision on the representation, which is whether to give them land or whether to give them housing or what. We went after, they were given 12 weeks, and we went after each of these respondents for a whole year. Throughout 2019, we went knocking on doors saying, please take a decision. The 12 weeks went away. It became a year, and COVID struck. We decided we are not going to go begging and pleading. We waited for one more year. In 2021, we filed a writ petition in the High Court asking for the lake to be protected against the encroachment. We received a judgment within a year or so, asking for them to be evicted. Actually, we had not wanted this, because from day one, we had tried to involve the slum dwellers in everything that we did. We got the children. That tree plantation that I spoke to you about, many of the trees were actually planted by the children. We wanted to prevent a dropout, school dropout. So we conducted a program called Classes at the Lake. And Ria, you asked about wage segregation. We facilitated. We told them we would give them the bin, and we will teach them how to segregate. All that we did, and they didn't want it. They said, we want land, we will get out. And once they received the eviction notice, they immediately went to another judge and got a stay order. And unfortunately, that judge did not admit our IA to become a respondent. And the last hearing was held on 11th of January 2024. And since then, there has not been a single hearing. And we have no locus standi because our IA was not admitted. So neither the petitioner nor the government respondents are interested in pursuing the matter. And who is suffering? The lake is suffering because the vandalism has increased. I told you about this last week, all that cable got pulled out. So unless the government, and I will also include the political authorities, political leaders, to say that if you do not protect lakes from sewage and encroachment, then the city is finished. Because with each lake dying, it is making that city that much less livable. So I do not have answers to why we can't do anything more about the encroachment. I'm sorry. We can only cry and keep knocking on everybody's doors. And we have done that a lot. Mansee, we have done that a lot.
Yes. I want to show this again as a response to what Ria was asking and what you are talking about. Actually, even if one neighborhood takes care of one lake, it is more than enough. We all don't need to take care of all the lakes around the city, because as you learn and that managing the lake or protecting or even restoring the lake is actually all the things other than really doing anything into the lake. Everything around the lake needs to be managed: the waste, the people, the legal battle, the technology, the funding, the community, so many things. So I strongly believe that we should just, as a neighborhood, as a collective, we can just focus on our own lake. And that will, anyway, if there can be a system where government can really make these communities, lake communities across, and I have worked on such project in Indore as 100 Smart Resilient Cities project long time ago, again around the same time. I think building communities is at the core of protecting the lakes. So my last question, and we can end it here as I don't see any questions also in the YouTube. You said you are a small group of people in the trust. What are your worries on one, sustainability of the lake, but sustainability of the lake community, the trust itself? I mean, you need to have a delegation in some time. What is your game plan to maintain the community?
See, my friends are really diligent. They work very, very hard. In fact, right now, I am actually only involved with this firefighting or handling these issues like encroachment and leachate, etc. The maintenance of the lake and all these small problems that come up, they are absolutely my friends. They handle it beautifully. I'm really lucky that way. So if I were to step down today, I'm very confident that they will be able to take care of the routine. But the bigger concern is, as long as the encroachment is there, even walkers to the lake do not go that side. Okay, if dhire you start conceding the land to them, then the lake is finished, and even the most honest, the most hardworking team can do nothing about it.
So that it is very interesting, but we can keep on talking about it. But for me, as a learner of this session, always, I see two things as when people talk about long-term sustenance or sustainability of the lake, but particularly today and the last Wednesday session, I was also keen to look at the long-term sustainability of the community building, the lake protection committee or community or trust, you can call it anything. But the sustenance of this citizens collective itself is a task on hand. I mean, if that is there, then they can protect the lake. It's not really chicken and egg situation. There is a clear linear situation where there has to be a community who is aware, who is informed, who is interested to take care of the lakes in their neighborhood. Then it becomes a more sustainable model. Probably we'll have to discuss more how to keep this community, or how to build these communities. First of all, you need everywhere. The role of leadership is extremely crucial. I am writing an article on that. That without Usha having that eye or concern, uh, the movement would have been probably some other time by someone else. But in Puttanhalli case, this is the situation where one woman looked at a case and got concerned and mobilized community, and then the whole Pandora box opened from everything around the lake. And what again reiterates from your session, and which I have been also learning all my life, is lake management is everything management than the lake itself. I mean, the majority of the time goes in managing all other things around the lake, and the pristine lake sits by itself watching if they have people who can protect it. For us, actually, we have to protect lake for ourselves, not for the lake's sake, but also for the sake of the lake. And I hope the sustenance model of the Puttanhalli neighborhood trust is as resilient as the lake is self-rejuvenating. So I hope you are also putting your head, and your team is putting your head to ensure that this team stays for longer time, so that the lake stays for longer time in its good health. Thank you so much, Usha. If you have any last words, please go ahead.
I would not agree with this word Pandora's box at all. I think this has been a wonderful journey. It has been a magical experience. And the very fact that we are still fighting and we are
Yes.
planning to come together shows our resilience and
Yeah,
shows our
absolutely.
optimism.
Yes. That's
Because,
important.
see, all along you have been focusing on the community participation. Now, as a community, all of us groups have come together. And we want to ensure that our voices are heard, our lakes are protected, and we believe it can be done. And that is why we are doing it. It is not a losing battle for us.
Of course not. That is where, as a learner, I'm saying that it is important that the community stays, for the lake to stay. And for that, whatever it takes, whatever you have to
Absolutely.
do, you have to do. And for that, you need motivated people. I mean, first, one has to be self-motivated, but also having the skill and the art to motivate and mobilize others. That's important task on hand, to hold a community together for any cause. Lake is just one entity which we are discussing today. But it can be any other good which is commonly shared as citizens, that we call as common pool resource, which is for us to take care. And Constitution also gives us that duty to take care of our common pool resources, which is for all of us. Thank you so much, Usha, for this wonderful conversation. Hope you enjoyed this conversation, and hope you continue inspiring a lot of people like us to engage with lakes and engage with anything else. So particularly, the word perseverance really suits as a very good last word to end the conversation here. Keep doing what you are doing good. Keep writing. I know you are also writing your memoir about this whole experience, and we are looking forward to reading that. Thank you so much, Usha. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you, Mansee. Thank you.
Thank you. At W for W, I would like to announce the next session here, which is on Friday. We have another interesting session. I'm sure Usha also knows Kanubhai Patel, Kanaiya Lal Patel. And on Friday, water art session on 21st March, we are talking about rainscape and water management illustrations. And Kanubhai has made some wonderful illustrations all his life, a very renowned sketching, painting person, and a very humble person from Anand. And he's going to showcase his water arts on this Friday, on Friday Water Arts. Next Wednesday is equally interesting session we have, and we are talking about water laws and policy. And again, where do we stand as social accountability. More info will be at our website www.w4w.in. And do stay tuned. We are inching towards 350 sessions, making us one of the longest water conversations around. Been there for nearly 4 years now in 1 month. So we are extremely proud, as well as we are extremely, nervous to keep continuing these conversations. At least I know we are going until May, and that's my only length of session organizing, which I keep in mind when I'm starting. We have started season 5 this month, and it's pleasure to have Usha as our guest on season 5. Thank you so much, Usha.
Thank you, Mansee. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.